Hello, dear ones. This is Bevin with Perceptive Souls. And I'm so glad you joined me today for the collective energy reading. For those who are new, I sit in a deep meditative state and sense into what particular topic wants to come through as I pull cards from a variety of decks. Really sensing into what's going on in our collective energy. As an empath, this is one of my greatest strengths, is to sense into the collective. And for a long time, that strength felt very overwhelming for me. So if you're an empath who senses collective energy, that may be true for you as well. But what I realized is I could take this gift and channel it into something really positive to bring out into the world, to transmute that energy of overwhelm into something that would be helpful and of service to others. So welcome. I'm so glad you joined me. And today's topic that came through was our individual and collective relationship to money, to prosperity, to abundance. I know that particularly at this time in our world, and these are archetypal energies, so it may be very date specific for you and it may not be. But this idea of our relationship to energy, of money, of prosperity, of exchange, reciprocal exchange, it just wanted to flow through so deeply. As many people are losing their jobs, as many people are really struggling with their businesses right now, I wanted to talk a little bit about this and see what comes through. And I have a very hopeful and positive and optimistic flow through this reading. So let's begin with the Four of Air. Right? Here's the Four of Air. And this really represents, in my understanding, our journey since the Industrial Revolution, right? In the Industrial Revolution, we moved from being an agricultural-based society, and there's still many agriculturally based societies throughout the world. But in more developed countries, and I'm in the United States, some of you may be in other places all around the world. When we went into that industrial society, we developed systems and processes and things like factories, which moved things from one piece to the other, and there were different components that needed to be slotted in, and we got onto this sort of time schedule, right? I see this clock right here, which is at the heart chakra. So, it's set to 9, and so the typical workday had been 9 to 5, right? So it's not surprising to me that this shows up. And sort of we're in this lower heart, solar plexus energy, right? Where it's like, I have willpower, I'm going to create, I'm going to invent, I'm going to bring something out into the world. And that's been amazing. I mean, think about all of the advances we've made in our societies because of this kind of energy. And of course, the air energy is very much the mental center. So you see a lot of activation going on up in this area. And that's really great. So we look at data and statistics and gross national product, and we look at all of these different ways of measuring what's going on in our world. And some of that has been really positive. I mean, can you imagine, at one point, we used horses and buggies to transport ourselves. And of course, now almost everyone in a developed country, or many people, have a car. We went from, Orville and Wilbur Wright, trying to fly the first airplane, to being on the moon and in outer space. And so this energy by itself is a positive thing. And this is about systems and structures. And we've very much been in this place for quite a long time in our world. This is about developing companies and hierarchies and organizations. But what you notice here is right here at the sacral chakra, the emotional center, there's a big hole, a big gap. Because although we can develop all of these amazing things, what we have to remember is that there is an actual impact on people. And some of that impact on people has been really beneficial. For example, our medical advances and and a higher quality of life for most human beings on the planet. And so some of those things have been beneficial. And then we've developed other things, like, in my opinion, the nuclear bomb, the nuclear weapons. Yes, we can invent it. We can contemplate that. We can manifest that from our mental center. But what impact does that have when we've brought something onto the planet where we can destroy ourselves? What impact does that have when we do biological warfare, for example? I mean, so there's all these choices, and the 4 is a card of structure, and it's also a card of balance. So I think that we have been way up in this mental center for far too long. And especially as we come into the technological era, and we've built networks and systems and the World Wide Web and all these things. We've been in that mental center for a long time. And perhaps, as we see now, it's time for us to consider a change. So let's look at the next card that came out. And this is from the soul cards. I will actually put the list of all of the card decks that I'm using down in the description box below. But this is, to me, our tendency to be influenced by all of this outside advertising, right? Like, everywhere we go, because we've made all these systems and products and processes, and we say you need to have more, and you need to scale, and you need to buy more, you need to make more money, you need to have a bigger car, a bigger house, whatever that is. There's all this advertising kind of whispers in our ear all the time. Like, you need to buy this. And a lot of, like, why it feels this way to me is a lot of that is very fear-based and very scarcity-based. It's if you don't buy this, if you don't do this diet, your body isn't going to be good enough. If you don't buy this product, you're not going to keep up with the Joneses. And so a lot of these influences have been here. And you see that, on this side, we're listening. And on the other side, like, there's nothing. Like, we can't hear our own wisdom. And maybe this is even this voice that starts to grow inside of us that says, well, I'm not good enough. I don't make enough. I don't have a big enough title. I need to write a book, and I need to be a best-selling author. And there's nothing wrong with those things per se. But when we get into this space where on this side we have no access to the universal web of consciousness. This is the human web, right, of consciousness. And there's some really good things that have come around in here, as we spoke about. But when we get disconnected from that, when we have a blank space and we cannot tap in, then we're motivated by our base instincts. And so we've seen that even though we've come so far, technologically speaking, and we're so far into this mental center, and our brains have been activated in an amazing way, and yet we're still very, very driven by these instinctual pieces. And we use psychological conditioning in our advertising and in the way that we try to get people to do something and influence people. And so this is just a piece that shows a little bit about where our collective is and where we are as individuals, right? So then something happens, like the pandemic that we're facing right now, and we all end up staying at home, and we stop consuming as much, and there's a scarcity of products and services, and people are losing their jobs, and people's businesses are at risk, and there's this sort of crumbling down of these old structures, these structures that we've created. And because this has felt very secure for us, we knew it. It was just, you get on Amazon and I do one click and I can have anything that I want, anything I desire. It starts to bring us to this place, right? Where we go to the journey within. Because a part of us, he's holding his heart, because we've lost that connection. In our fast-paced hustle culture, we've lost who we really are. We've lost that connection to that wisdom. That owl spirit is inviting us to spread open that part of us that had been disconnected and say, you've always been connected. And the owl is a nocturnal animal. It comes out at dusk, right? So you see that the light is starting to fade. And sometimes when we go down into this lower world, when we start to get into our shadow self, We start to really take a deep dive into, well, what is my mentality? What has it been around money, around scarcity, around prosperity, around abundance, around my role in this global society? It could be a little difficult to face some of these things, right? I just finished a great program called The Heart of Money with Mark Silver, and took this journey right here, actually right before the pandemic came, to coming back and remembering. He talks a lot about remembrance, remembering who we are. That we are this divine being. We are this divine being, and although we have needs in our physical vessel, we need to connect back in. And we need to remember. You see some heart activation here at the third eye. It's like, okay, I now remember. And this is a difficult journey, and everyone's going to take this in a different way. Some people are going to be thrown into it because they lose their security, and some companies are going to dissolve, and it's going to seem really scary to take this journey. It's really like a vision quest, if you will, into what is it that I value and what's important in my life. And when we're willing to take that journey, we come then back into some stability, the number 4 here, right? This is the beauty way. And the beauty way doesn't mean that we're not willing to look at the shadow. It doesn't mean that everything's rosy and we do spiritual bypassing. The beauty way means that we look around and we see all the little things in life that are so amazingly gorgeous, that uplift our heart. You know, whether it's the small plant that graces my desk, or a hummingbird that comes to my feet, or that friend who reaches out and says, how are you doing today? We notice and we come into this state of gratitude, which is very different than the energy where we saw that I just need something more. I'm not good enough. We're like, I am enough. I have enough. I will always have enough. Right? This is the beginning of that activation where we can start to bloom like the lotus coming out of the mud, right? We've been down in the mud for a little bit, and particularly right now, a lot of people feel in that way. But coming out into this activation of our true nature and looking around and just being grateful, finding everything you possibly can to be grateful for. Grateful for your health if you have that, no matter what stage that's in. Grateful for the amount of money you do have in your bank account. Grateful for the home that you live in. Grateful for the people in your life. Just grateful for the little things. This morning I was grateful because I watched a really funny cartoon called Simon's Cats, and it's a cat video, and it totally described my cat. And I just sat there and laughed, and I was so grateful that someone's creativity came out so that I could have that moment just to enjoy life, right? And we need that right now. We desperately need that right now. So that's the beauty way. And it invites us then into what is normally called the Lover's card. And you can see that it very much looks like that. This is the 2 of cups, the 2 of water. And these kind of relationships can either be codependent, right? And we've seen codependency in so many ways in our financial system, right? We've seen that through what I believe is an excessive amount of debt that most people in the world carry. A lot of people in the world, I shouldn't say most. You know, it's like buying things that we can't afford, you know, on credit cards. And I'm not out here pointing a finger. I have, you know, I have debt on my credit card as well. I have student loan debt. I have debts that I've incurred. And so when we're making an investment, it's one thing. And when we're making it and we're creating debt just to get into this energy of, you know, I need more, I need more. You know, like if we're in this energy and then we're incurring debt, we get into this codependency. You know, and I would say that there's also some codependency between with the income disparity that happens from the frontline workers all the way up to CEOs of companies. CEOs of companies making literally millions and billions of dollars a year, and a frontline worker making $30,000 a year. And yet those frontline workers are the people who are actually making the business work. They're doing the frontline service to the customers. But they're not valued, right? And so we've kind of entered in our financial system into this codependency where just a very few number of people are collecting and gathering as many resources as they can, and a small number of people don't have as much and really struggle to do that. And I'm not trying to beat up on anyone who's wealthy. I think that we are all intended to be wealthy and prosperous. But what I'm saying is sometimes we've seen that go into a dysfunctional cycle where people are literally sort of making an enormous living off of the backs of other people. And what we need to realize now, and what this card invites us into as the lovers, is that we're doing this through love. And we're doing this through a sense of interdependence rather than codependence. That we are a part of a larger ecosystem. That we rely on each other, right? And so this could either be a transactional situation where I give something to you, you give something to me. And that's how most of our financial system has worked, is transactional. And what we're now stepping into is, what does it look like to have a regenerative ecosystem of finances, of natural resources, of human resources, right? So this is a card that we can either go one way or the other. We can be codependent and we can continue on that path, or we can become interdependent, where we know that we rely on each other and we value each person's contribution, regardless of what title or what level, and maybe we don't even need levels anymore. This is sort of my vision. And you can agree or disagree with me, it's fine. But this is kind of what I feel is really important. And then we come into faith, right? So once we've recognized, we've gone on the journey, we started to become grateful for the things that are in our life, every small thing that comes into our life. We realize that, where we've been maybe codependent in our relationships with money and where we want to be interdependent, we come into faith. And this card has an enormous activation here at the higher self. And you see that it's a little bit hard to see, but you can see that she's holding this blooming flower right at the heart. So there's something starting to bloom there. That lotus is coming out. And there's a wolf. The wolf recognizes that, it's a part of a pack. And we're all interdependent upon each other to make that work and to make sure that the pack is taken care of. And we have the crane, and the crane is a beautiful spirit animal. It stands quietly in the water, and it waits as it attracts the resources, the fish, whatever it's going to eat. And when it comes close enough, it just takes patience. And then it strikes and it eats what it needs. And we have the turtle energy, right? The turtle energy invites everyone to slow down. And this is the slowing down process for our entire world. We're like, wow, we've been on this fast track. Hustle, 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 hustle. And now we get to breathe. And we get to go within. We get to contemplate and be on this journey. And we say, well, where do I want to be with that? Where do I want to be with that? Some people have said, I want to buy a tiny home and I want to go live off grid, and we see all kinds of ways. Marie Kondo's book on minimalism and, clearing your home and clearing not only your home, but your energy field of this deep need to always have more. It's like a top bestseller. And so there's this desire in our global society to come into this slowing down energy, right? And especially as an Aries, and I have a lot of fire in my chart, it's challenging for me to slow down. I like to do things. I like to be active. And now we're coming into Aries season. But there is a benefit to being still. And like the crane saying, I know that I have faith that I'm attracting in what it is that I need, what it is I need to be nourished spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially, even mentally, right? We have some healing to do on the mental side. And when we start to have faith, we recognize that when we give something, when we serve, we don't have to worry, am I going to get something back? Is someone going to take advantage of me? we can let go of that energy. We can release. We can just give. We can just shine our light the way that I'm doing right now, in the way that all of you do it in your own unique way, in your family system, in your communities. Maybe you do online recordings, maybe you do readings, whatever that is, however you give. Maybe you're a healer. Maybe you're a writer. And you release it out into this regenerative ecosystem, knowing that it just starts to expand, it ripples out into the collective. And that through your giving, you're learning, you're healing, you're growing, your spiritual connection. And that even if that person that you touch isn't the one who reciprocates, that it will come back around. They may touch another person who touches another person who touches another person who touches another person who comes back and reciprocates to you. So we don't have to be in that transactional energy any longer. And that's going to be a huge change, because that's the entire culture we've built for literally thousands of years has been this way. And those of us who have this vision and hold this space get a chance to help role model what this looks like. So in my own business, some of the things that I've done with this is I have reached out to people, for example, a local photographer, and I said, I'd love to have some new pictures for my business. Could we do a trade? And so I'm helping to do some intuitive business coaching and branding with her in exchange for her doing a photo shoot for me. I have another friend who is very well versed in astrology, and so she's teaching me astrology, and I'm helping her with her website. There's a lot of things that we can do which allow us to get into this energy where it's like, I have something nurturing to give, and you have something nurturing to give, and it's not like I need to have this and you need to have that and we're keeping score. It's let's let this flow back and forth, and let's support and amplify each other's work. Right? So this is a new way of looking at prosperity and abundance, which is a little different than the old systems and structures. And when we start to practice these things, right, we come into the medicine of the butterfly, Cucina. And this is just such a beautiful card. I love the Earth Warriors Oracle deck. It's amazing. And you see now that we have an enormous activation here, the full blossoming at that higher self, and a very large blossoming at the third eye, the cascading of all of these abundant resources, and the full activation at our throat and our heart, right? And I wanted to take a moment as I hold up this card to read to you, and this seems so appropriate, this interpretation for what we're going through in our world right now. If you've been working hard on an issue, on yourself, or in a cause, or for a cause in the world, and it seems to be going nowhere, Butterfly Cucina reminds you, in the divine alchemy of transformation, things sometimes appear to be going backwards as they move forward. It is the way of things. After summer, there is autumn, and then winter, all of which indicate progress towards the next spring. If you didn't understand the creative purpose and regenerative nature of the seasons, you might be frightened by the winter, concerned that it signifies the world is ending. With knowledge of the sacred feminine wisdom of the seasons, you are not afraid of winter. You see it as an essential part of life. You may even learn to nurture and restore yourself during that time, gaining conscious benefit and appreciation for it. If you feel that you are in a spiritual or emotional winter in your life, have hope. The soul unfolds according to seasons, just as nature does. Let your heart and mind rest in trust that life is growing your soul into its beautiful fulfillment. And this is so appropriate for us right now, because there will be different people on our planet in different seasons. Some people will be in winter. They will be going within, hibernating, really taking that inward journey. Some people will be in the spring and starting new beginnings. And some people will be in the summer and in full action mode. And others will be in the autumn. They'll be releasing and letting go and letting things fall away as they prepare to get into a quieter space. And so we don't all have to be in the same place at the same time. This is about honoring your own journey, honoring your own process, knowing and having faith that you will be nurtured and held. That if you do the right things, if you shine your light, if you set this powerful intention, if you come from this space here, then you will receive and exchange everything that you need. The butterfly doesn't worry, like, am I going to find nectar? Am I going to find water? It flies and it seeks it out, and it knows that it will be nurtured. And it appreciates its life, and it shines its colors, its bright, beautiful colors, wherever it goes. So I invite you to consider which season that you're in at this point. And the last card is just so amazing because when we go through this entire journey, when we go through this journey of looking at our systems and structures and seeing what works for us and what doesn't, and where have we lost, our connection, our emotional connection. And when we consider, what are we consuming? What's whispering in our ear? Is it the divine? Or is it this earthly plane? And we get to decide where we put our focus and our attention. And then when we journey within, we go within and we seek that owl wisdom, that higher perspective. And we say, what's really important to me? What do I value? We get information that allows us to move forward. And every day, coming into the beauty way, just being grateful for those small things, for those beautiful people in your life, for the littlest, tiniest source of abundance that can come in. Just being grateful for that. Being grateful for the new beginnings or the release or the hibernation, wherever you find yourself. Right? And recognizing your interdependence, that we are not alone, that we're in partnership here, and that we all rely on and count on each other, and how we set that up, how we operate together can either be in loving kindness, heart to heart, as you see here with the lovers, or it can be codependent. And so we get to choose what that looks like. And that brings us into faith and a slowing down, and an only going out to seek out what we need and nothing more than that, right? Just allowing ourselves to be activated at that higher self, and a letting go and giving away. This doesn't mean that you don't need to be nurtured, especially if you are a spiritual, holistic, wellness, business practitioner. You need to be nurtured. It's okay to ask people to contribute, but give from this spirit, from this motivation of deep, divine love, connection, wanting the best for everyone, as opposed to feeling like everyone's just trying to get something from me. So there's a very different energy there. It's okay to ask to be nurtured in this ecosystem. As a matter of fact, you need that, right? And then we come into the butterfly medicine, where you start to express and open your beautiful, empathic, intuitive, loving, kind, compassionate leadership wings, right? Leadership happens at all levels. It begins with self. It begins with that journey within, and it extends out into the small inner circle of the people that you connect with. And it extends farther into your community for the causes that you volunteer for, you donate to, and the way you show up in your workplace or in the organizations that you're connected with. You can come from this energy. You can have faith that it's okay to shine your light. It's okay to show your true colors now. And finally, we come to the last card, which is you walking to the beat of your own drum, singing your own unique vibratory song out into the ethers. We each have our own vibratory hum. This is mine, and you have yours. And we see all of this beautiful, beautiful light and energy flowing out from that mental center, which is a very, very different place than this, right? This is, I need to control. I need to have it all figured out. I need to have it all worked out. And this, my friends, is flowing with, it's being fluent in the language of energy. This is what we do as empaths. It's actually what we already know. This is our birthright. And so I invite you to strum your own vibration. Seek that. Go on this journey. Look at what's been happening with you. Look at what's been happening around us. Sense into this. You know, if you're deeply empathic, you have already an innate knowing and innate sense of all that's been happening here. So I thank you so much for tuning in today. And I'll make some gentle invitations to you. I am a coach and mentor for intuitive empaths, light workers, and conscious leaders. You can learn more about me at perceptivesouls.com, and I'll put that link below. I also have a high vibrational private global community called 1 Million Empaths. And you can also access that if you're looking for your tribe and you want to master your gifts and you want to make a difference in the world. This is an online sanctuary for you to be nurtured and held. These are the things and the ways that I serve. I look forward to reading your comments and telling me, sharing with me what you've learned from this reading, how this has impacted you, where you've seen these kind of patterns in your own life or out in the collective. And how you're shifting and changing and doing something differently, changing your mindset, changing what's in your heart, changing what's in your body, coming into this quiet, deep space. Thank you, my friends, and namaste.